Hey guys, Slanesh Devotee here. I'm doing something a bit different today. Hopefully this is in time for the Black Crusade OCTGN League, which is an online tournament that you can sign up for. You play one game every week and see how well you do. The organisers of the Black Crusade set up their own cards for the tournament after the Conquest ended, and so I'm going to have a look through those cards and talk about them because they're applicable for this tournament. If you're interested, look up blackcrusadeleague.blogspot.com. I think I'll put a link with this video. Please sign up if there's still time, it's really cool. Now, I'm not the best player in the world, so I'm not going to talk a lot about the rules and how good the cards are necessarily, but I really liked the old Chime of Eons articles that a user called Asclepios would post to Card Game DB, and in those he would talk about how well the lore and the background and the story of Warhammer 40,000 was represented by the cards. So I wanted to have a sort of a discussion of that. Now, I'm not necessarily the best at that either, so please feel free to correct me or add more detail or tell me what I've missed. So we start with the Space Marine cards. We've got Belial as our #1 card. Belial, I believe, is the leader of the Deathwing and the Dark Angels, and the Deathwing are the elite first company, always in Terminator armor, and they seek out the fallen angels and to destroy them, basically. So Belial's unique, which is great, elite, wonderful. He's deep strike, which makes sense because Terminators make great use of teleportation technology, and that's one of the things the Deathwing are really good at. So he arrives and just in the middle of the combat and smashes everything. Area effect 1, and he reacts from his deep strike to cause more damage, so he's really destructive, which is really cool. And then he can also be defended by other Dark Angels. If you have another Dark Angels unit there, they can die instead and he can go into reserve, and I like that idea of like a Dark Angel jumping in front of this brutal las cannon shot, and Belial teleports away just to make sure he can come back and cause more damage later. Next we have the Wolfguard Veteran. My first problem with that is the name Wolfguard Veteran, I don't feel like it works. I feel like a Wolfguard is a veteran. It's kind of redundant. It's not bad, I just kind of feel kind of redundant there. But as for stats, it works really, really well. It's got mobile when there's Space Wolves nearby, so if trouble starts nearby, the Wolfguard will come in. I just kind of wish it was like Wolfguard Tracker or Wolfguard Hunter or something along those lines, but that's fine. And then last of all, we have the Terminator armor. I would have liked to have seen something like the make or the model or the call sign of the Terminator armor. Like I believe there's Tartarus Terminator, something beginning with G Terminator armor, or Mark II or Mark VI, something like that, just to give a little bit more to it. I would have liked to have seen. But otherwise, again, deep strike makes a lot of sense with Terminators, so that's good to see. It's kind of weird to have Terminator appear on somebody, but I look at it as though there's Terminators joining the battle. I'm happy with that. Deep Strike 1 means it still costs you 2, so it can be a surprise, but it's still the same cost as if you'd put it out normally. It attaches to a soldier army unit, and I'm aware that they basically wanted to do that to not let honoured librarians get too dangerous and ridiculous, which is fine, I get it. But I'm still like, there are psychers in Terminator armor that it happens, and you can't use those psychers with this armor, which, I don't know, it bugs me, it just irks me in the back of my head. +2 attack, +2 HP, gains the elite trait, that's kind of cool. Yeah, it's quite a cool card. Okay, next we have the Fiery Heart Immolated for the Imperial Guard. It's a tank and a vehicle, so that's great for Gorzod and for, what's his name, Gregory Maxim. 3 cost, area effect, makes sense for the Immolator. It's like a flamethrower tank, so that's cool, kind of like the area effect one they currently have, which I suddenly can't remember, the Hellhound. But also, when it moves to a planet, it deals an extra 2 damage. So that makes it good for particular warlords. I don't see that as particularly reflecting the Fiery Heart Immolator, but it's Ecclesiarchy, which means it's part of the Sisters of Battle, the Adeptus Sororitas. One of the things I would have loved to have seen with more Conquest was more of the Ecclesiarchy, with more fanatical devotees of the Emperor and their armed forces. That would have been really cool. The Salamander Scout is a large transport vehicle, another vehicle and tank, so same things apply there. And this one just generates guardsmen as it sort of rolls along. The more you can move it around, the more guardsmen you get. That makes sense. As it rolls along, you just generate out guardsmen. That's fine. We are the guard. Ready soldiers and warriors. If they're non-Imperial Guard, then you get, what's it? You ready another. That seems cool. Yeah, no, that's perfectly reasonable. I don't know if that reflects how, I mean, I get it's supposed to be sort of like a how connected they all are. They're all fighting for the Imperium, but because it's non-Imperial Guard units, I don't know. Is it because they're drawn in? I guess. What would it be? Space Marines or Orcs? Yeah, it seems all right. We have a new Orc. Unique, another named Orc. I think there's a lot of named Orcs, which is kind of cool actually. He's Crackfang. He's a Nob, which is great. I'd love to have seen more Nob stuff, more interesting stuff there. Mob up, a new specialization, which I think this is a really, really great idea. When you have more Orc units at the planet than there are enemy units at this planet, and then the effect of the specialization. I would have loved to have seen Mob Up in actual Conquest. I would love to see new cards that use it. That's just fantastic. That is so Orc. The more boys you can put on the planet, suddenly they get tougher and stronger and faster and more dangerous. I would be well keen to see more of that. And then you can create Snotlings to help you with that effect. Yeah, I think that's all perfectly reasonable. The Mob Up in particular is fantastic. Ramming speed, now that is Orky, just straight away, ramming speed, fantastic. Sacrifice vehicle, printed HP, I like it, it fits in with the Orc idea of having their large HP for brutal and being tough and stuff like that, but just to smash something, just drive into it. I love that event, that's beautiful. Crumpin, give it damage and brutal for one attack. I guess, you know, like a sacrificial, going really hardcore and not really defending yourself, but laying into the enemy is fine. Yep, that seems okay. Okay, Chaos cards. The Juggernaut of Khorne. These were spoiled on their website a while ago, so most people have talked about them before. The Juggernaut of Khorne, iconic unit, great to see it. Demon, obviously, elite, fantastic. Loyal, that's fair, because, you know, not many demons wandering around with the Dark Eldar, I guess. 4/5 for 5, not great. No war gear like most of the bigger demons. While your warlord is bloodied, unit gains 4 HP and brutal. Obviously designed so that your Khorne warlord wants them, and they work nicely with him. Getting stronger because there's been bloodshed is decent, but otherwise I'm not sure that it particularly reflects the Juggernauts in the fluff necessarily. They're basically just the demonic steed, what you ride if you've been blessed by Khorne. So that's fine, that's cool. Blood Feeder, a particular axe. I kind of wish this one had been unique. If it's a named demonic wargear weapon, then I kind of feel like it should be unique. But that's alright. Gives a bit of attack and HP and heals things. That's fine, you kill stuff and it makes you stronger. I'm happy with that, that makes sense for Khorne. Cower before me. After your warlord commits, do damage, printed attack of a non-elite Khorne unit. That's a really interesting design, and I quite like yeah, just showing up and being impressive and scary and bloodthirsty causes damage. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's a pretty cool way to represent Khorne, just going rah into a battle. Yeah. Dark Eldar. Now, I think pretty much all of these are for Urian, which I'm very pleased with. So we have a unique Homunculus, the Carver, and he deep strikes. Now that's interesting to me. I'm not sure why he deep strikes. Like, I don't know that that's hugely beneficial, or, well, not beneficial, reflective of anything about the Homunculi. I suppose they use webway portals and things, so perhaps it reflects some of his technology. But after you deep strike, they do damage equal to the torture card. So the more torture you've been dealing, the more destruction it does when it arrives, and it can actually go back down into deep reserve, which is quite cool. He keeps popping up and causing damage and hiding again, hiding in the shadows. That's pretty cool. I think that's really cool. An abomination. It's nice to see the trait being used again. Very cool artwork there. When it's destroyed, gain resources. Kind of like the Carnivore Pack, or something like that, but for Dark Eldar, fine. I feel like having a command hammer might be a bit odd for a unit like this. I feel like this is the sort of unit that you would just throw into a battle and not really expect to control things, but maybe it reflects a bit of the because it's such a dominant, monstrous thing that other people aren't able to utilize the resources in an area, so it keeps it for you. And also it kind of reflects with the resources coming in when it dies, reflecting the tortures. It backs up that Homunculus angle. They've used all these crazy, horrible things, these tortures, and then they sort of draw power from how much pain they've caused in these sorts of monsters as well. Slaves, I think this is a really cool thing to include for the Dark Eldar. I'd love to have seen more slave units. I kind of think it should have had an ally trait as well, just because of what the ally trait kind of represents in Conquest, that non-combatant almost sort of role, and I think that would have been quite cool. A slave and an ally, and then you could possibly even have dropped it to cost 1, which would have been crazy. But allows you to keep your torches in your hand and keep them coming, which is cool. Yeah, I quite like that. The Eldar get the Swooping Hawk Autark. Now I'm really curious why it's an Autark. The Autarks are like Farseers. They are high-ranking Eldar. An Autark has trod the path of the various aspect warrior shrines many times and has become an absolute incredible expert in the field of warfare. But at that point, usually they're not particularly tied to a specific shrine, whereas this one is. It's a Swooping Hawk. Normally I would have thought that's a Swooping Hawk Exarch, which is somebody who, the Eldar, they join a shrine to perfect a particular type of warfare, such as the Swooping Hawks, and then theoretically they're supposed to lay it down and go back to society and no longer be a part of that idea. It's this idea that they perfect an idea and then move on, because when they did everything all at once and became experts at everything, their indulgence and their pride is what created Slaanesh, and this is a way of keeping that sort of thing from happening again. So I just feel like this should be a Swooping Hawk Exarch and not an Autark. But it's mobile, which makes sense for Swooping Hawks. Swooping Hawks are mobile. It has attack 2 and 3, that's fine, and it deploys attachments. I don't know that that's necessarily particularly Swooping Hawk, giving things to things. I mean, he can load himself up, theoretically, because he keeps moving and putting stuff on himself. I don't feel like they're couriers, you know, so I'm not sure that that's a fluffy sort of rule in itself very much. Samhain Seer, and again, this is kind of interesting. It's Samhain, and I'm not sure why. The Seers, Samhain are known for their jet bikes, for their wild riders, for their fast-moving hunters, but not so much for their seers. I would have thought that's more of the where does Eldrad Ulthwé? Ulthwé, the Ulthwé craft world. I feel like Ulthwé seer. This would have made more sense to me. And then he steals a keyword off somebody, which is quite neat. Gives another Psyker for Taliesin. I suppose Taliesin's Samhain, that's probably why they chose it, to try and tie it in with Taliesin. And then the Las Blaster. The Las Blaster is the weapon of choice for the Swooping Hawks. It's like a laser gun, which is what the Imperial Guard use, except it's like a rapid-fire, high-powered laser gun. So it only goes on mobile army units, which is a bit cheeky in a way. Plus 2 attack, that's solid. And it gains range when it moves from one planet to another, which is really cool. That I like that a lot, that idea that it dives in and suddenly blasts away at you. The only issue I have with the Las Blaster is that is very much a shuriken catapult being held by a dire Avenger. on the artwork there. That is not a mobile unit, it is not a swooping hawk, and it is not a las blaster. But it's fine. It's a very cool card, a really cool idea of using the las blaster that way. Just would have been nice if we could have found a las blaster artwork to use for it. The Tau. More drones for the Tau, I like that. Shield drone, always good. Generates a force field to protect the Tau soldiers, yep, I'm happy with that. So it's non-elites with attachments, cannot be targeted by card effects. It's wonderful. That is a fantastic way of showing a shield drone. It could have been gives them more HP or heals damage or anything like that, but this is a really neat way of showing that defensive aspect. I like it. Pathfinder Cadre, which is a scout, which is interesting. That could be useful in Necrons, potentially. Cheaper with Deep Strike. Nice to have some more Deep Strike things. Move an attachment from one unit to another eligible unit. It's a simple little effect. Pathfinder's moving along, gives you a chance to reassess what you need, where you need your equipment, so I'm happy with that. Obviously, he's a bit more of a, what's the word, visual card, I think. And Guevesa Reinforcements. This is really, I quite like this. I would love to see more Guevesa Tau stuff that particularly Starblaze could use, but also, like in this case, only Starblaze, because no one else can have an Imperial Guard unit at a planet to add these tokens to. But it would be nice to see more Guevesa cards, where, like, Shadow Sun might have Guevesa, you know? I would love to see some more of the allied armies of the Tau, like the Kroot and the Vespid and even other made-up sort of things, because the Tau are meant to be this alliance, this empire that's drawn in many different types of alien species. So that would have been really cool. But I like that. I like the Guevesa. Tyranids. Behemoth Hive Ship. When you deploy Tyranid unit with Hive Mind, reduce its cost by 1. Straightforward. It's unique, which is fine, but it's not limited. So you could combine it with, say, an SDC fragment or a digestion pool, which is kind of cool. I am curious if, I haven't checked, but do the Hive Mind units, are they from the Behemoth, do they have the Behemoth trait? I thought most of them were Leviathan, so I feel like it's kind of mixing the Hive Fleet traits that were already set up. I feel like it should be Leviathan Hive Ship, which obviously already exists, and so perhaps a different name or something like a Leviathan Mother. I don't know, a slightly different name perhaps. I feel like the Behemoth fleet was about giant monstrous things, whereas the Leviathan fleet was heaps and heaps of tiny monsters, and so I feel like that's a bit of a muddle there. The Hellgaunt, which is a termagant that just has gone crazy. I'm fine with that. The longer these termagants are around, the nastier and viciouser and more evolved, for lack of a better word, they become. That's cool. Strip the planet dry. If you win a first planet battle that is infested, you get heaps of resources. Yeah, sweet. That's what the Tyranids are doing. They're draining the planet of everything, so it's a barren rock. Perfect. Wonderful. That's fantastic. And then, of course, the wonderful Subject M17C1-1. Generates termagant when he arrives, and also can sort of redirect the opponent's attack. Cool. It's sort of directing the mindless members of the Hive into the way of the guns so that your more valuable monsters stay alive. Great. Wonderful. Not much else to say about Mitch there. It's a good card. I like it. It's cool. And then last but not least, the Necrons. Okay, so we have the Harbinger of the Storm. I like the idea of using more Harbingers, scholars. That's cool. Of the Storm, I believe Nahumek is related to Storm imagery in the fluff, so that's cool. He's unique, which is interesting for a 2-cost unit. Now obviously when you read his rules you can see unique is kind of important, unless you've got a way to kill him off, and potentially rechange your enslavement dial many times if you've got a few of them, you know. But yeah, it feels a bit weird having a unique 2-cost guy. I suppose that's fine. He's the Harbinger of the Storm. Change your enslavement dial. I am so tempted to be running a very complicated Nahumec deck, including some Harbingers. So watch out for that if you see me on Octagon or in the tournament. I might be doing that. Living Metal upgrade. Sacrifice the support to prevent up to 5 damage. 0 cost support. So theoretically, if you've got all 3 of these, you could put them all out and stop 5 lots of... Actually, theoretically, because it's a reaction to the damage being assigned, couldn't you prevent 15 damage from 1 attack? That's crazy, just with the living rearranging themselves sort of aspect. I think that's pretty good. I think that matches up with the idea of the Necrons quite well. Raid the Grave. Now, I don't know, I get the imagery of them using the discard pile and being kind of undead. I just find it hard to figure the slavery aspect is not something that the Necrons really spoke to me in the tabletop game or the fluff until I saw Conquest. So it's basically bring back the dead enemy to fight on your behalf for a combat. Gift of Isha for the Necrons, which it's fine. I mean, obviously you need the enslavement dial to match, which is fine. It adds to that idea of set your enslavement dial to your opponent and then just use all those things that work against them in that way, which is cool. The slave aspect is kind of weird in a lot of ways to me. Revitalize. 2 shield event tactic. After you remove damage from a unit, gains armor vein and attack. Yep, which again, that sounds like Revitalize. They're living metal, their dead robot bodies soak up more damage than you expect, and actually they use that to build themselves up and attack even harder than they had before. I like these. So, as a whole, I think the Black Crusade cards are really fluffy. Rules-wise, I look forward to trying some of them out. I'm not sure if I'm the best judge of all that, but yeah, I think they did a good job. I look forward to seeing some of you on the Black Crusade tournament and on Octagon to come. Please use the cards, try them out, print them out, use them with your friends, and let's keep playing this really cool game. Cool. Catch you later.